Ana kia koe, tēnei mātou, te Manawhenua, o tēnā iwi, tēnā iwi, e mehea kia koe. Kia koe hoki te Manawhenua, Adrian, tēnei mehea kia koe. I tau, o te koro matua tuarua, James, tēnei mehea hoki kia tāte katoa, I ngā manga, I ngā kai kōrero a tēnā rohe, tēnā tō tātou hui mai I tēnei rā. O reira, kia koutou ngā kaimahi, Tamara, kia koe hoki Marsha, kia hau he kanu I hau ki konei, e mihi ana kia koe. Tātou katoa, riro, tēnā kaute, tēnā tātou katoa. Tēnei waka whātu kia koe mai, māu hei whakatūwhira tia tō tātou hui.
Kia rongo tātou te mai tēnei ata, kia koe rongo mihi tēnei wako. E te honore mai ki hei aka tūwhira o tātou hui. Ka poenga te kiwi, te pau ma te pō, ka kete ngā kāka tarahai, I te tākiri tāna o te ata. Ki runga e neo ngā maunga kōrero mai te maunga e tū mai nei, muri nei, a te aroha, tarawai tiku taupiri. I hurahi ai te whāre ki ngā kōrero, hei a whinuku, hei a whirawi. Me hono anō o tātou, kingi a tū hei tia ki te rangi, nā wai hono ki te whenua, e pukiri e neo ngā kaupapa tātou I tēnei rangi. Nō reira, tūturu whakamaua ke tīna, au me e hui e,
We have apologies from Wati, Gamane, Gary Thompson, Rangi Chōranga Koko, due to Tangihanga for Rangi Chōranga, and I understand Taho Thompson is also in Tangihanga. If there's no further apologies, someone move the apologies. Give it a long second. Mike, all those in favour say aye. Contrary, carried.
Aye.
Items, notice it. I have one. I'll raise it at the end of the first part of the meeting. My apologies. I am leaving straight after the first part. I won't be staying for the workshop. So just before then, I will table my. If there's no other late items, we'll move to 4.1. Question number 9. You go to consent.
Okay, laki tēnā koe, riro kia koe, Manawhenua tēnā koe, rangatire mai ke kia tuwhi hei tuwhiretia tō tātou hui. Tēnā. Aku rangatira, tēnā koe. My apologies, Vaughan Payne, I had arranged for Vaughan Payne to be present. I'm not sure what's happened, and this means to help brief the Manawhenua Forum on what is happening on Waikato Waters Done Well, but something must have happened because I was talking to him just this week about it. So, aroha mai. I came to the forum in December to provide an update on this whole work stream of Waikato Waters Done Well. Just to refresh, there are 7 councils in our region that are working together to work through a potential option to deliver water services to our communities. I've identified the 7 of us in the report. There are also within our region 2 other scenarios where Waikato and Hamilton City Council are actually looking at their own entity that they're working through. And as far as we're aware, Tibbs Coromandel District Council are also looking at options beyond the 7 councils. The reason we want to keep the Manawhenua Forum updated is this is moving very, very fast. we have a legislative timeframe within which we have to get certain things completed, which one of them is the 3rd of September this year. We have to complete, by 3rd of September, all councils in New Zealand have to complete what they call a water service delivery plan. And that water service delivery plan will outline how water services, so we're talking about water, delivery of water, wastewater, potentially stormwater, will be delivered to our communities. It's a government requirement that we must do. Some of the councils in the 7 collective want their preferred option, if there is going to be a regional entity, they would like it stood up and operating by 1 July 2026. So it's a tight frame to actually achieve that outcome. All councils have to consult through the process for their options. So some of the councils in the 7 grouping, in fact, yes, some of the councils in the 7 will start consulting probably next month. I believe Waikato District Council and Hamilton City Council will be consulting very shortly as well, possibly next month. So we're very conscious that there's going to be information coming out into the public about this whole program, and we would like to make sure that we are keeping the Manawhenua Forum updated about what is happening, and probably most importantly to give a channel for us to feed into our considerations as early as possible. So while it's a very compressed timetable, there are opportunities for us to take on board whatever input that our hapu, our iwi would like into this process. One of the dynamics for our district is, and our Manawhenua Forum is that there will be interest around the table on not just ourselves and what we might be doing, Hauraki, Kim's Coromandel, South Waikato. So my understanding is each of those councils will also be working through their iwi relationships and keeping them informed. There is also a forum that the Waikato Mayoral Forum have started quite some time back, I think, and I'd have to rely on Mayor Adrian to advise me, but I know back as far as August or July of last year, the Waikato Mayoral Forum have been talking to the Iwi Chairs Forum about some of the things that have been happening, but things have escalated since then, and so we're here to talk to yourselves and to keep you informed and to let you know that we have channels to input into this process through us. The reason why I identified Vaughan Payne as potentially being here is Vaughan is our kaiarahi for our leader, if you like, for program director for the 7 councils. And Vaughan has been attending Iwi Forum and has taken a lead role for us all in terms of coordinating us through the project. So much of what is in this report has come from the December report. I think the key thing that I wanted to emphasise at this point is we're likely to see things escalate over the next few months as our consultation process of different councils come forward. From our perspective, I would like to be consulting in April for this council, and what we will be, my recommendation to this council is that we'll be consulting on 2 options. One of them would be, and it is for council and to decide well, in fact, it's indicated that the collective arrangement for water services involving 7 councils is probably our preferred option. But the other option that we will be consulting on is if we were to keep services in-house and reformat and restructure our operations to deliver on what will be required under a new regulatory regime. That regulatory regime includes not only regional council, but also Taumata-Piako, but also a new economic regulator. So the rules, if you like, of the process are changing, and the way that we are at the moment, even if we were to keep our services in-house and try to deliver in-house, the context is changing for us. We would have to change in some way to be able to achieve the regulatory compliance. So what I would hope that we can do with each Manawhenua forum is keep you updated on where things are at, but really is an invitation, if not now, going forward, to tap in and give us your feedback, but also for us to be able to give you whatever information we can as we go through the process. So the time frame is very constrained.
Thank you, Manoia. Just open up. Are there any questions or pārtai ki Manoia? No?
Tēnā koe te pau, me mehi ka tika, kia eke whana ki te ranga tūna o hapetako, me kami tira ki o iwi, ki ona koe ki umara tūna. Tēnā koe. So in terms of the process, what specific engagement would be had with the iwi separate to the Te Manawhenua forum? And the reason why we asked that question is certainly being updated here. There's a whole regime of constituents or whānau that we need to facilitate engagement with. And so, other than missing this fast bus or the train of engagement, is there a specific consultation process with our people?
Kia ora te rangatira. The focus to November 2024 has been with the iwi forum chairs. However, every one of the councils have very specific relationships and value those specific relationships. Taupo relationship with Te Whare Toa, each of the councils, and there's a feeling amongst the council, but to be fair, we have formed a new group, governance group, which is the 7 mayors. And this specific issue came up at that meeting, and I invite Mayor Adrian to comment more. But what was recognised is we have to make sure we talk to our own contacts and people. So basically, I am open to whatever it is that is required of us. Whatever it is required of us. I understand, and Vaughan has been involved more. They've been involved. I have not been involved in the iwi Chairs Forum. I know that Waikato Tainui have been in those forum. I know that Loko have been in those forum. I know that Te Whare Toa have been in those forum. And Maniapoto, we have not had in those forum at this point hauraki in the forum. However, there's another forum meeting on Monday the 17th. However, but all of the chairs have said, all of the mayors have said, we need to be talking to our people. And so I am in your hands as to what we can do. And Vaughan is our leader of the collective. We would want to make sure that we're doing things consistently. However, our relationship for this council is with Te Manawhenua. So basically, tell me what is required, and we will shape it accordingly.
Whātai anō? No?
Yeah, kia ora. Obviously working with the river iwi is a requirement under Te Ture Paimana and here in Hauraki, many of our iwi resettlement. And so given the statute and regulatory requirements of Te Ture Paimana, there's certainly, iwi authorities and the Manawhenua and the ahika is the layering of that level of whakapapa engagement. In terms of MPDC and our requirements, what is the situation around our, basically our Ngāti Hau connection to Te Ture Paimana and the Waikato Tainui and their overlap in terms of specific Te Ture Paimana requirements?
Yes, it's been made very clear it's clear in the legislation what has to happen there. It is our view that, or we hope that a regime will exist in time over this area as well, and that's actually one of the appeals of taking a total catchment approach. However, despite the fact that that hasn't been formalised at this point, there is, from our perspective, an extra pressure for us to make sure that we are structuring ourselves for that future. I'm not able to influence what each council does. I can only influence what we do, but I can feed back into our group. But most definitely, Te Whai Mana and its extension potential extension is very much in the minds of or not just the Waikato, not just the seven. I can tell you that Waikato Tainui have put a specific paper in front of the Waikato Mayoral Forum, and I'd be happy to share that with you. It's public information, and aspects of that focus on what Waikato Tainui consider should be a future governance relationship in terms of any regional entity or sub-regional entity. And I'd love for our representatives to have that full picture.
And I think that's where my positioning or questioning is coming from, and I'm involved in those discussions with my role at the City Council and infrastructure. So you're in the detail, and obviously Te Whai Mana is the korowai, but also as a hatu to uphold those key principles. And so strategically, how can we learn the framework and discussion that's happening within Waikato, and then future-proof the strategy here with our Hauraki EPDC iwi and partners, so that we are learning from those who have Te Whai Mana as their korowai, but also future-proofing our relevant iwi with regards to pressing and question discussion. So it's all about strategic placement, but also there's a real keenness to ensure that we have engagement, also engagement with Pahika as well. We say as an individual representing our people, but I think there is a strategic approach to ensure that we've got workshops or inclusive engagement and invitations to our people to come and wānanga about a formula that is fit for purpose and bespoke for our mana whakahaere, our responsibilities.
Thank you.
I just look, for me, it's an invitation. Tell me what I should be doing, and then I can incorporate it. And I've made those notes. And so if that means we need workshops with each of our representative iwi hapu, then that's what we do.
My last point, if I can, I think there's a real strategic approach here to maybe cluster wānanga and various marae, so we're not going to everyone, but bringing everyone together strategically to cluster and to open invitation. Mena ke te taumai, ke te haramai koe, mai haramai, mena kare anō, o kea koe te mana. So the door is open, come and make a contribution at maybe clusters, strategic clusters, and work smarter and efficient with our time.
That would be very helpful.
Yeah, so we're just streamlined, and we open up the door to our whānau to come and participate and contribute. They turn up, they don't. Thank you.
Just listening to the last part there, I'm looking for capacity around what is iwi's responses to this. So if you're looking at the 17th of which month were you talking about that next meeting?
We have a iwi chairs forum. The mayors have a scheduled, Waikato mayors have a scheduled meeting on the 17th of February, at which they will talk to the iwi chairs forum.
And is there capacity for the advisors to be advised before they get there? I mean, it's no good a chair showing up there and there's no advice sitting behind the chair's decision. There's the information in advance of it. Is the capacity to respond for that there on either side of this? Is it coming from Matamata-Piako? Is it coming from the collective? Who's paying for this? Is it internal affairs? Just give me some. It's a bit hard. I know you said you've got board that seems to be on the pay list there at the moment. where's the iwi in terms of capacity to be able to respond to these? Respectfully, I take it the council has their positions on this, and they have all their energy behind them. But who's actually sitting behind the iwi to get there at the table in advance of this?
Look, I haven't been involved in the forum. I do know that it was the intent of the mayors right from the start of the project to make sure that the iwi Chest Forum was involved, although that forum is not discussed just on 3 waters or these waters. But look, what I can do is feed that back to Vaughan, but I'm not involved in the logistics of that meeting.
Yeah, it's important to get the logistics right. Right up front. The other part that I want to talk to is attending the marae, where people can show up at the marae, and Hapu and whānau show up there. Our people give up their time and their efforts to get there. But yet again, what's actually how advanced of their advice before they get to the league are they going to be advised on, and then their time and their people putting into that. The industry players that will be sitting at the table at those at your end will be the likes of Frontierers, etc., the polluters. Obviously, expecting that they're going to be financed. But we're talking about the people on the ground, and I don't expect our people to be simply giving them their valuable insight, which would be appropriate, but not just be showing up there and then having to respond to everything that's currently on the table. The other part concerns me is CCO. So I take it from just look this first idea in establishing a CCO. Water care is the CCO. Is that the framework of what the language has been talked about here? And if that is the case, the practices have been that that we start off with a lovely idea of working collectively together, but the reality is these organisations, and when you join those organisations together, they should have the ability to deal with each one individually and respond appropriately and fund that response appropriately as well. So I'll give you an example inside just our law here. We have 400 water tributaries that sit across us. I worked on one 3-year plan with one, which was approximately funding that was got by Central, which was 3 million. So I'm a mathematician. I go, well, 3 times 400 equals that. Obviously, those players inside there would choke at the idea that's essentially what gets that across those waters, and that's just doing plant restorations and the minor stuff there. So we haven't even got into the heavy infrastructure or capital infrastructure that you're talking about inside this. So I've got to ask some of the questions around these, around this type of thing here. We do need to seek advice, and that advice needs to be in the fashion of what your plan is. So giving you advice, we need to have the same level of advice at our end, and that's why I'm going back to the question.
Sure. So the concept of the CCO, if we think about water care, in effect, any CCO in our area would be structurally something similar with directors, governance based on a corporate model, not council representation, but on a corporate model, which would mean appropriately qualified people that sit on that board, and that board would be, and that entity would be required to address all of the issues that certainly that council currently has responsibility for, that would pass over to that board. Just the description of what you have just given there is a really good example, in my opinion, of why it makes sense that there is a collective, that every council is not doing that itself, because that means that every council, well, to your point, I don't know if it's norm, is duplicating effort. So there's a lot of attraction to try and set this up so that it can do things properly. And there are good models in place, in our view, e.g. the River Authority, that dictate what should be happening. And strategically, that makes sense for our area. What doesn't necessarily make sense, to the point that Norm raised about efficiency, is that Matamata-Piako Council goes out and does its discussion and constant engagement with iwi. Hauraki goes out and does the same thing, and when all of the water ends up in the same place, and the impacts end up in the same place. So I am not skilled at designing the mechanism that says ahika, hapu, iwi all have the right input into that process and have confidence in that process. What my role is initially is that is absolutely something that has to be fed into whatever structure, whether we stay on our own or whether we go to a CCO, the issue remains the same. How are we going to solve it? So the point, 100%. And powers with more wisdom than me, E.G. Vaughan, have acknowledged that these are things that we have to work through. And I suppose for me, it is about taking these issues and feeding them into our team. So I would love to say I can give you the immediate answer. I can't. But I understand and completely accept that these are things that need to be structured. And even though, and can I just emphasise, 3rd September is a legislative deadline in terms of what we have to do to comply with the government in terms of our water services delivery plan. If it is determined that a CCO is the way for all or some of the 7, this whole issue has been identified as paramount, that things don't stop on the 3rd of September, things actually have to start before that and continue through, because water care didn't get set up in 6 months or 9 months. So the better input we can have into now, the more certainty we can have that we can design a process that meets the needs. And again, I think, go back to like Norm has said, there's some good models that we can follow, but it is for yourselves to dictate how that should look in our area.
Kapai?
So just quickly on that note, where it ends up, that's a very good question. So why is the TCDC in this area? Because it ends up in the same spot with Hoda and some of the south and Waitonga and those ones.
All I can say is that every council is making its decision based on what it thinks is right for its district. Thames Coromandel district are looking at a different option. That is for them to decide, and then presumably to involve, I'd assume they are having the same kinds of conversations that we are. What I would say is, particularly the 7 mayors of our group have said, we need to think bigger than this, we need to think strategically. And the door, and indeed, I know Waikato District Council in Hamilton are saying, don't close the door on anything, but we have to all navigate through our own politics. So I can't answer on behalf of Thames Coromandel District Council.
Just in terms of a hierarchy or a formula of importance, and Mike raised it, it's te mano te awa, te mano te wai person. And I talk about 4 waters, so these the 3 waters, and the wairua, the spiritual, metaphysical element associated with wai, that is important, very apparent in many of our discussions and processes. So the receiving waterway, infrastructure and resources, obviously rates and having a balancing approach to infrastructure and rateability of that infrastructure. And the ultimate matrix or mechanism is actually the decision-making formula or formulae. And the big question for us as a iwi, and it's important for us to attend those iwi, is where do we fit in the decision-making whakapapa or layers, directorship, governance, staff, monitoring, all of that. And so I think it is critical that in terms of process of engagement, how we submit our position and positioning around the strategic with regards to the formula that's been discussed, and certainly with regards to Te Ture Whaimana, this weight here. However, for us in the BDC, how we are pre-settlement, noting that settlement is imminent, how we then align ourselves to be strategically approached in the decision-making formula of DCO. And it isn't about being strategic. Things are being rushed, and we've got to work within the rushed pace world. And certainly, we need to sort of reach out to our people to attend and put our power in the ground around where we best fit and how the mission to future-proof ourselves.
I think probably just a few things to highlight. The mayoral forum isn't actually a decision-making forum. We will have to go back to our councils. The councils make decisions, so we just work together. So this is basically two waters. It's the drinking water and the wastewater. I think our collective 7 councils, it's not just about money and growth, it's also about the environment, and obviously with the catchment with our wastewater, I think is significant. I think acknowledging that iwi already have a role in the regulatory space around guiding principles around the consents is also there. The concept of the CCO obviously is that councils do remain the owners of their infrastructure, and that the CCO then acts independently. So the ratepayer still effectively owns that infrastructure that gets the council controlled organisation. I think it can be acknowledged that the parochialism in the past of some councils haven't been able to work together. There was a proposal many years ago that you're probably familiar with, Norm, with Hamilton City Waikato and Waipa, and it didn't happen. And there's a little bit of parochialism got in the way. So then, yeah, well, yeah. But I guess the thing is for us is 7 councils working together on different catchments with the Waipa, the Waikato, and the Hauraki. They all share that common challenge. And I think it's not just about this decision isn't just about money. It is also about the delivery of the service. And for us to work in silos is a real challenge for us because we're competing for staff, and staff are moving between councils where there needs to be a career path. So they're working together and aggregating those non-financial benefits of the delivery of the service. Given we've got an ageing population, we need to have a future-proof what's ahead. What's being suggested isn't necessarily cheaper, but in the long term, it will put us in a much more resilient space. And I would expect compliance will be more achievable with the work that's scheduled and planned to occur. That would just be what I've stated at this stage. Obviously, with the iwi forum, we had been meeting for quite some time before the general election, and many conversations were had. And the reality is it's council-owned infrastructure, and it's where we head in that structural space. Some councils are more urgent than others and work needed to be done. There are more pressures, and the borrowing is the biggest challenge is money. Money is always going to be the issue. So we have to be really mindful. And that's probably all I can add at this stage around where it fits. And it's not going to happen overnight. This is something, because we're one of the first cabs off the ramp that's actually working together as a collective of councils. There are councils out there that are standing alone that are going to form their own little hybrid model, but we're actually looking to work together as a more regional rather than in isolation, especially with the catchment, because what we do here flows on down. So yeah, there's quite a bit of work to happen, and PIA are definitely involved. We've got CoLab, who have the collective of councils as well, the chief executives, where there's been some funding. But now we're just 7 councils. We're not actually Waikato region, so it sort of changes the narrative a little bit. But yeah, it's an interesting space, and it's a pretty courageous thing, but we have to look long, which is long overdue. That's all I can add for now.
Thank you, Adrian. that has been helpful, that information. Is there any other, before I bring the same matter?
Got one last thing for me, if I can. Just in closing, can I acknowledge the presentation? This is a big kaupapa. It is significant for us in the scale of it. It can't be appreciated in this level of discussion besides knowledge. Born pro, tino mata te pāna ki tēnei o ngā pukinga o te waifotira ki te tai o te, e ngā hanga. So knowledge. So translated, I just said born is knowledgeable in the space of water, infrastructure, and certainly around investment. So it was an English transition. Thanks. We appreciate it.
I do appreciate the translation.
What's important amongst all the changes is we as a people really need to galvanise and put our own in that process. Fast track or slow track, but fast track the changes in the RMA, the challenges around te tiriti o Waitangi. Drinking water versus wastewater versus stormwater. I think they're all fall into the same catchment. What happens on land and infrastructure ends up in a water body somewhere. Ultimately, here it's the tika from Moana. Money is important, money is an issue. But what's ultimately important for us as the people is the mana and mauri of the taia. So the commerce of mauri and mana is important. So we need to ensure that we are connecting as mana whakahari or kaitaki, but then we put our over the ground on this consultation one and sure. Just to ensure that our team's recommendation is understood from the forum feedback is that capacity, and given the 17th is the hui coming up, it will come back to each of the iwi chairs of this forum so that we can attend that on the 17th in advance.
I think the 17th, that forum, I believe, is not an open forum. I don't believe it is. I think what we would be saying is to Vaughan, we need to set up something that addresses our specific Manawhenua. Well, whether as Norm described, that forum, we Matamata-Piako don't determine what that agenda is. That is determined by the mayors and the iwi chair, is my understanding.
Next week's mayoral forum is the Waikato region. Following week there's a 7 mayors meeting. But yeah, we'll certainly take feedback as to how we move forward.
Yeah, no, just so I'm clear. We're not waiting for existing chairs and there to invite us in, are we? When you were suggesting that it's a closed forum?
I'm just saying that forum has a structure and a purpose that goes beyond what we are talking about here. It's really, I can't say to anybody, let's invite these people. That's for the mayors and the iwi chairs to determine that, not me. What I have taken from this, exactly to your point, is I need to feed into with Vaughan, which I'll do tomorrow, the importance of how we ensure that we have appropriate engagement of our Manawhenua, that their interests are not only about ensuring there's adequate information available for that to occur pre any hui, and understanding the capacity around that, but also to understand that in the strategic sense, as you described it and reinforced by Norm, there is a whole hierarchy that we need to acknowledge, and that ultimately what iwi want to see is where or influence, as I've interpreted it, how iwi fit in, how can iwi fit in, how iwi want to fit in. And I suppose the overarching point, again, that was made has been strategic in terms of what will happen post-settlement. Having all of that, those are all key points that I've taken from this discussion that all feed in to Vaughan. So I cannot extend an invitation to the iwi chairs forum because that is beyond my capacity.
Oh, well, then that's clear. Okay, then my advice now for the Manawhenua will simply be back to our forum, which is the representative Matamata-Piako, the mayor. We have a high expectation that if there are chairs at this forum, we have a high expectation that the chairs sitting here are at that forum. And we would expect you to.
So Hauraki were always invited. The Hauraki chair, there was always that link.
Well, the chairs that are sitting here.
Yeah, well, we're at the higher, that's the higher level though, I guess is the challenge. But yeah, I take the feedback.
I think let's get clear here. But Matamata-Piako was going to join anything, and the iwi forum, chair forum is there, and you're joining it without us, you would be, you'd get my full attention. So I expect that if you're sitting in a forum, that we expect to be there alongside other chairs. So if you can assure that Matamata-Piako's chairs from this forum can attend that forum, that would be a starting point for. Otherwise, what's the point of bringing that to here, separating it in our faces that we can't get there? This is insulting to say the least.
But what I was going to say to that was, from Matamata-Piako's perspective, we're wanting to hear from our Manawhenua forum to influence our decision, what Matamata-Piako can decide. That's having said that, it makes sense because our waterways affect a number of councils. So I imagine that similar issues will be coming up at each of those councils. The iwi Chairs Forum has no decision-making authority. It is an input process, but for Matamata-Piako directly and our decision, this forum has the influence over that. Now, 7 councils, in the same way that Thames Coromandel District has made a decision for their councils, our 7 councils will make their own decisions, and whether we remain a collective or not remains to be seen. We can influence the 7. We can have our input into the 7, and that's what we're trying to make sure we do in terms of the decisions that Matamata-Piako can make.
So I'm not mincing words here. I have a high, clear expectation that you go to no other chair forum and expect your advice to come from a set of other chairs. And if you're going to be entering into agreements with them, that you have the chairs from here over there with you. Otherwise, you've already had forums and you haven't invited us to be there in those earlier forums, and we need to be there. Otherwise, we would, again, we seem to be at I'm at loggerheads with this process. And it's quite clear for me, your treaty partners that are sitting here are there. You're talking about a treaty partnership over there that's a set of chairs. For whatever reason, bring them to the table. I don't really know how they get there, but how they got there. But one would imagine that if Waipa's got chairs sitting there, one would expect them all to be there. But highly, we can only talk to our advice, which is this forum should not be entering into with other chairs leaving us out the door.
Thank you, Michael. I think you've made your point clear. Just hand it back to Manoia.
I pick up exactly what you said, Tarangatina Mike. This council will not be directed by the iwi Chairs Forum to make any agreement. We will not. We will be coming to Manawhenua. This is the forum that will have the influence over our council, not the iwi Chairs Forum. Just want to make sure, so your wording there, that council would enter into an agreement with the iwi Chairs Forum. No, that is not what we would be doing at all.
I just, if I can just provide my closing comments and acknowledge the discussion today. This is our iwi Chairs Forum for MPDC, is what I read in. Other iwi Chairs Forum that the authorities have established, that's a forum, but mana actually lies with this forum, is what I take in terms of that process. And so I think the way going forward is perhaps we can have extraordinary hui for the Te Manawhenua for about this particular kaupapa, complementary to other cluster hui with our people, so that we're informed and strategically minded in terms of supporting the engagement with our people, and we reach out to our hapuri at the Māori level. So there's a two-pronged approach with our iwi chairs forum with SITSI, or the Te Manawhenua forum, and also strategically aligning with our people at the APAR level. So I think it's a nice segue in terms of a dual approach to consultation, engagement, and partnership. So I can move the
You have to make the report. So with the report, I have a second upgrade. Thank you, Hinarangi. Moved by Norm, second by Hinarangi. If this report be received. All those in favour say aye. Contrary? Carried. My apologies. It goes back to point 5. Going back to point 5 is are there any declaration of interest? You want to prepare any declaration of interest?
Is there a paper on that point 5 that we sign up to, or do we have to verbally say that it's on?
It depends what's on the agenda. If there's any conflict of interest,
any of the matters on the agenda.
Yeah. I think it's more a compliment of interest than without beyond how much experience you have. With regards to this kind of that's also big different. Compliment of interest, not a conflict of interest.
Yeah. Just a little brief minutes, making confirmation of previous minutes.
Going there. I have confirmation of the previous minutes.
Jumping back to the procedural.
Thank you, Manawhenua. There's not, someone move?
Yes, James.
James, seconder. Adrian? All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, carried. Sorry. 4.2, policy and bylaw update. Who have we got here? We've got Cora.
Volunteer Tēnā Koe and Tēnā Koutou Forum members. Thank you so much for the opportunity to update you today on the policy and bylaw reviews and the upcoming consultation that goes along with that. I'd just like to talk through some of the key documents that we are consulting on. I do have a little slide because there's quite a few, just to summarise. So we have 3 policies, 3 bylaws, and of course the draft fees and charges. It's just
Was your presentation?
just like to summarise them. And just like to update you on the consultation process and also how we plan to engage with our communities through this period. So as you may recall, this is generally the time of the year when we consult on our policies that are part of our work schedule. Generally, this opportunity coincides with our annual plan process, where we set our budgets for the year ahead. However, this year, Council has confirmed that there is no consultation required because we're sticking to the plan, which is year 2 of the long-term plan, and there's no material differences with that. So what we are doing is consulting on a list of policies and bylaws here. So a consultation will start from the 27th of February. We're trying something a little bit different this time because there's such a range of policies, bylaws, and such a range of different topics that we think would be quite interesting to the community. We're opening 2 weeks early on the 27th of February with our gambling and TAB policies, and also those 2 bylaws, community safety and cemeteries, and that'll give us that 2 weeks to really focus on engaging with the community on those topics. And then we're going to open 2 weeks later with our dangerous and sanitary buildings policy, alcohol licensing fee bylaw, and fees and charges. So if we just step through some of those documents one by one, and just as a reminder about what these involve. So firstly, with the gambling and TAB venue policies, so obviously we've talked to you about this before. It does come up quite often every 3 years, so it's a really good opportunity to see how the policy is working, if there's any changes that need to be made. And the revised proposals for our gambling policy, so basically we're maintaining the current restrictions on the number of gambling venues. And also gambling machines, electronic gaming machines, and TAB venues. So we're proposing a district-wide absolute cap. And one of the key new proposals that we're asking the community about is ensuring that any new venue, that they must be located at least 100 metres away from a sensitive site. So that is something that we're interested in hearing some feedback about. We also have so in that same period of consultation, we're going to be talking to the community about those 2 bylaws. So you may recall that we undertook some early engagement around 2 of our bylaws that were coming up for review at the same time. They cover some similar issues. So that was the public safety and public amenities bylaw. So we asked the community, what are the issues are of importance to you? And actually, the most common thing for people to raise was around enforcement of the bylaws. People are keen for council to be monitoring and enforcing its bylaws. So that linked us to have a real focus on is the key areas that council has jurisdiction of. Some clauses have been removed because they've been replaced by legislation. So an example of that is the Food Act. So there's no longer a requirement for some clauses. And we also have partner agencies where it's more appropriate for them to be handling some of the issues. So for example, there were some references there to illegal activities. So drug use in public places and things like that. And that's more of a matter for the police. So there are some things that we've kind of consolidated what we should be focusing on there. And we're proposing a name change for one of our bylaws for the public safety. We think a community safety bylaw is more appropriate because it reflects a broader focus on promoting safe and respectful communities across the district, and referencing that it's not just public places, it's also our community. So it contains some issues around nuisances and our neighbourhoods to sort of keep our whole district a happy and healthy place. And we are proposing a name change. So the cemeteries bylaw was the public amenities bylaw, but what we've found through the review is that a lot of that bylaw was reflective of cemeteries issues. So we've taken that into a separate bylaw, and the other issues relating to public amenities have been moved into the community safety bylaw. So we've got 2 distinct bylaws there. We really hope that this sort of strikes a balance to reflect what the community have told us. It includes new measures to support the safety of our community. So we'd be really keen to hear what the community has to say about those. And then our other policies and bylaws that are happening. So we'll be opening up with, in 2 weeks after that, it'll be the dangerous and unsanitary buildings policy. You may recall this one that's actually been reviewed recently last year, but following an audit by MB, they've identified some issues that we need to update again. So we've taken the opportunity to make some minor legislative updates. This is the policy that we have to have under the Building Act. It sets out our process for how we deal with such buildings. And so that's something that is just a few minor changes. We've also taken the opportunity, actually, in all of these documents, to incorporate Te translations in the heading. So that's also one of the improvements that we've taken with that one. And what have we got else remaining? Another bylaw there. This is a new bylaw that we're proposing to the community, the alcohol licensing fees bylaw. This forum hasn't seen this yet. We haven't brought this to you. But this is something that has resulted from our fees and charges process, where we look at our costs and what we're charging for different services. And so this is the fees that you have to apply for an alcohol license. And currently, the legislation sets these fees. So without a bylaw, we can only charge a amount set by legislation, and this was set back in 2012. So it hasn't kept up with the actual cost of providing this service. And so what we're proposing to the community is to move to more of a user fees system where that fee actually covers the actual cost of providing that service. And then lastly, we have our fees and charges, 2025, 26. And that is where, so we review this every year alongside our annual plan. And again, this just ensures that what we are charging for things such as like our swimming pools and our building consents, that it reflects fair and reasonable costs. Other things to consider is, of course, the balance between user charges, ratepayer funding. There's a balance there to reflect the common good aspect of providing some of these services. And this year we're proposing to increase some of the fees by inflation. So that's at 3.2% this year. There are also some more significant changes proposed, and we're going to reach out to these people to let them know, to seek their feedback. And some of these are obviously the alcohol fees bylaw. It's a separate document. We've got some revised wastewater fees to more accurately reflect the actual cost, and some changes to a building fee structure. And this is driven by updates from an external software provider. So as you can see, you get quite a number of different things, a range of different topics. And so according to the legislation, we're supposed to have these proposals open for 4 weeks. We're looking at quite an extended period. We want to have some space to engage with the community. We've got a website that's looking really good, development. So that's how we'll be asking people to fill out their feedback. We're going to come and attend some community hui, some markets. You can just come and talk to us. We'll also have some written hard copy forms as needed, and we'd really love to hear from this forum as to if there are particular groups of people who are happening around this time. We'd really love to come and talk to those people so that we can get some really good feedback, because these are only drafts. Then a council will have a hearing to talk through and to consider all submissions, and at that point then the documents are finalised and come into force from the 1st of July. So yeah, really happy to answer any questions. I know it was a lot of information, and look forward to as an individual or forum to make a submission during this time as well. Kia
Yeah, Laura, thank you. Sandra, you wish to?
I'm happy to answer questions alongside Laura.
No?
Yeah, just 2 questions. Being one of the youngest in the forum, do the communication strategies on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of those, again, I'm really being the youngest in the room, do they play a role?
I'm not that up with technology either in terms of TikTok.
Yeah, sorry,
But I don't believe we use TikTok or Instagram. But I know we very actively use Facebook. So yeah, that is definite. I'm not too sure about the sort of newer.
Okay, sorry, just like
yes, we don't use
the mechanism of social media.
Yeah,
How they can get the awareness out.
If I could put our wonderful communications and engagement manager, who's sitting in the back of the room listening in, on the spot, she might have a response for TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah, you're right in the response. We are on social media, but in Facebook and LinkedIn, and that's the extent of it. Just we don't have the resources to cover all the other channels at this stage. Yeah.
complementary to that, what's the uptake in terms of people's response to the Manawhenua bylaws that are always continuously out in our community every 2 years or 1 year? Is it pretty good? Statistically speaking.
So I think what we've found is, whilst we've been going out for these early engagements, kind of before you get to the draft period, we've had much better uptake of people letting us know what their concerns are so that we can try and incorporate those. So that includes coming to these kind of forums, but also we went to various community days. So I would say that early engagement, being sought nice and early and incorporated in the draft, possibly sees a reduction in the actual amount of submissions is what we've seen recently.
It's the 90%, 95% prep in public sector.
Yeah.
Just my final question, can I just acknowledge the bilingual language that you're using in terms of names? When you count with other names, I did write my notes: community safety, haura, hapuri, the cemetery bylaw, tapu, which means sacred place. But I just wanted to acknowledge the comments around the bilingual name, so I appreciate and acknowledge that. Thank you.
Just Matamata-Piako Kiwina, with their radio stations, Māori, both as Tainui Raukawa and the Ruira Parahuraki, Matamata-Piako, utilise those, and then just probably fashion that real kaupapa in with those ones there. There's a lot of community online stuff there. They might be able to do some packages with you to probably encourage take up with some games or some giveaways, etc. You can put those into it. Just going to get outside the square, that's all. And you get your hits and stuff like that. Go into those and just talk with the people at the stations and try and generate. So if you're looking at any of those taki that you've got there, and you only got 5 of those, you should run those across with comms team and your group going out to Koya and forth.
Any further questions? Not ready to remove. So make this report be received. And I run yes. Seconder. Norm, all those in favour say aye. Contrary carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
On the 5.1, the climate change update, Annie and Emma.
And here, Morena Koutou. Let's bring up a wee presentation.
Good afternoon.
Just coming to you this morning with a climate change update on the work happening across council. I'd give you a brief summary of the presentation that Waikato Regional Council did for council, and Manawhenua Forum and Risk and Assurance members were invited. It was in October last year, and on the topic of climate risks and resilience in the Waikato. So I thought I'd give you a wee summary of that. There's also an upcoming presentation that I'm going to tell you about, and some updates on the work streams within the climate change river map. So the presentation was in 4 sections that WRC did. The first section was presented by Councillor Jennifer Little, who chairs the Waikato Regional Council Climate Action Committee. So she talked about that governance structure and about a piece of work that was produced by committee, which is the Climate Action Roadmap, which sets out a range of priorities for WRC around climate change. And she's been, over the last few months, she'd taken the same presentation around all 11 councils in the Waikato, and her key message, I guess, was around looking over time for areas of collaboration, ways that we can work. Since obviously climate change is an issue that goes right across our region, it makes sense to work across the region, across catchments on solutions. The second part of the presentation was about water security, presented by Mike Scarsbrook, the Environmental Science Manager. And his key messaging was around drought really being the top climate change related natural hazard for our region. In response, what WRC has created the water security strategy for our region. And from that will now flow some more work, including doing risk assessments across each of the district council levels to see what the specific, how well we are set up each council to deal with the water security issues we face, and making a plan for water security into the future. I think I may have shown you these graphs before, that a couple of the key graphs that Maxie showed us is this one that shows historical data of decreasing rainfall across our region from the 1960s to near the present day. So you can see that. So you take the average over rainfall over that whole period, and then you compare each of the 10-year periods to that average, so that you can see lower is when it was more than that average of rainfall back in the 60s. We're getting much more orange into the present day, so falling down to 80% of the average rainfall.
What is the average? What is it? Do you know what the actual average?
I don't know the actual figure, and I haven't got that figure right in front of me. It might be in the water security strategy, the actual figure.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that is one of the key issues facing us, is the fact we are getting that decreasing rainfall. At the same time, this map shows the increase, the demand on water, showing that for the Piako catchment year round, it's under very high pressure, well above sustainable. It's another key issue for us, and on top of that, we have expected growth in our district. So all of these things together.
Can we just jump into the next question as we go? I'd just like to find around the demand of water and the relationship between the council to manage allocation. How well is that comes? Certainly when there's a water take application, we have a role, and we want to make sure that it's not allocated. And acknowledge the role of water, but just having security and management around it.
There's all that variation 6 stuff. So when was that?
Early 2000s.
Yeah,
2006, 2008.
Yeah, around about that time. That was, so would take that was sort of part side of things. Yes, so that was one way of regulating who you could see.
They're going to start having a moving baseline, so that rather than just saying, well, this is how much water we've got available, and then figuring stuff out from there, they're actually going to keep reassessing the baseline amount of water. But I'm not an expert on that, I'm sorry, but I can find out more about it if you want.
If you can, just so that we're managing the consents that come through our iwi in regards to water take. Consent commission. I was also going to ask around county rivers, but I might just hug that one.
Yeah, I think that's all in the regional council realm. It's not in our realm at all. And the only thing for us is, as the PEX council, is obviously our water take for our municipal supplies, and obviously our wastewater discharges and our stormwater discharges. I think the key point here is there is not an endless supply of water that we can keep on taking more, and that's part of that balancing strategy. But yeah, that's with regional council, still not us.
Yeah, and just acknowledging certainly that. Yeah. Is a real good example, a bad example of practice up north. I think that's recently wetland was drained.
Mm.
And so managing activities, monitoring activities, is certainly something that's important given the lack of rainfall.
So the water management strategy puts forward some potential solutions for dealing with that water security challenge, and it has some examples in this strategy around how to better manage demand, enhancing supply, improving ecosystem resilience, and further modelling and research.
Is there any cultural strategy in the climate strategy?
Go back to the.
Until Māori,
So there's two different things here. There's the within the water security strategy. It definitely does talk about engagement with iwi.
I think engaging is one thing, but it's actually what is the engagement outcome and output.
Yes, it does talk about and one of the solutions it talks about centering Te Mana o Te Wai as a guiding principle. That's the only bit I can remember from here.
And those that are intimately involved in the water space know that some of our unions in Te Mana o Te Awa, and we know that, excuse the pun, but Te Mana o Te Wai has been diluted through some relevant changes, so it's been a shoot around it. It's critical for us.
Anybody else? No. Did the report be?
Oh,
yes, I just got one thing I'd like to say. Should really think about. I mean, should really think about planting thousands and thousands of trees in their rohe of Matamata. I mean, we planted 180,000 trees in 2.5 years on Moiho, on our maunga, and just to combat, climate change. When we live where I live in Manaia, we have bush all around us, and I taught my kids when you see after the rain and all those clouds rising up to this sky from the trees, from the native trees, and I used to teach my kids, I said, see, that's rain. I said it would go up, it would store in the clouds, and then you get rain. It's not a bad idea to think, and part of you improving your ecosystems and resilience is that you actually just wage war on planting thousands of trees in your rohe, wherever it's got to combat some part of climate change. Something really serious to think about. I just want to add that note. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that. It's not so much. Oh,
I think she's still range, but still more to go.
Just a little bit more summary. The third part of the presentation was about WRC's infrastructure strategy and just looking at a different way over time of thinking about renewing infrastructure, thinking about the fact that many of WRC's assets are reaching the end of their useful life. Plus climate change impacts means the affordability of just doing what has already been done, which is just keeping all the assets going at the same level of service, is going to become more and more challenging from an affordability point of view. So they have come up with something called the Sustainable Infrastructure Decision-Making Framework, which basically suggests that rather than just maintaining the status quo, gradually over time, that they look at other ways of managing infrastructure. And they are actually doing that at the moment. They're doing a trial in the Motu Karaka catchment. And the trial is about working with, so the trial is rather than just saying, okay, we need to, this piece of infrastructure is needing to be replaced, let's replace it. It's about thinking on a wider view, what other options do we have, who are all the interested stakeholders, and so being much more engaged in a community conversation, how to best manage that land, the different land uses in that area at the time. And the fourth part of the presentation was about regional resilience, and Rick mentioned some work that is happening in the region at the moment around landslides, flood modelling, earthquake risk, and also Hauraki Plan's adaptation plan. So that last one there is something that we're organising a presentation to council about, and we're hoping to make it happen on March the 19th in the morning. And if any members of the forum would like to attend either online or in person, you would be more than welcome. I'll send out a calendar invite once I've got that locked in. So that will involve some staff from WRC and staff from Hauraki District Council and Mayor Toby Adams, Councillor Neil Gray and Councillor Jennifer Nicol, who've all been involved both in the Wharikawa, well, some of whom have been involved in the Wharikawa Coast adaptation work, which they're, and from those learnings, then they're now moving into working in the Hauraki Plains. So that should be quite an interesting chance to discuss the way that that project is working, the learnings, the different governance structures, and the way the work is shared, and the way the costs of that work is shared. And last little part is just a quick update on what is happening within NPDC within climate change work. And I think Susan's here to give us an update. Susan here? Yeah. On some of the work streams there.
Kia ora, I'm Susan Campshop, Council's Assets and Projects Manager. I thought we'd just give you a quick update on some of our actions that we are working on in the first 3 years of the long-term plan. So we've just got underwater, our key focus is water sustainability, and we touched on that earlier with the drought and with some of the work that's been done around some of the river health and capacity issues. And for us, it's really about making the best of the water we do have. We know that our Piako catchment, Dan mentioned that it's under high pressure, so we're very restricted and have to think very sustainably there to make the best of the water we have. And we're working across a number of initiatives to address this. So what we are doing is fixing our leaks in our network, so we have less loss. We're implementing the program from a water loss strategy, public education. We also have a requirements for graded water systems under our new plan changes, and we can't enforce that on the current zoning, but anything and looking forward for future plan changes, that is a requirement of the building consent process. Installing some new network water meters to better manage and understand some of our water loss and where the water is going. And we're also working with Regional Council to develop a water management plan across the region, which is what Ian's touched on. For the longer term, we have also included funding for universal domestic water metering in our long-term plan, and that is something that we are still going to be working closely with our community and doing some education and communication with them. Yeah, moving on to wastewater. Our focus in the wastewater stream is reducing risk for the environment. And we know we get extreme weather events that bring large amounts of rainfall in a short time period, which can interact into our wastewater systems and overwhelming the network, resulting in some overflows. We have a work program scheduled in the current long-term plan to reduce the stormwater getting into our wastewater systems and reducing the risk of overflows. So that can be by upsizing some of our pipes. That can also be providing some more storage or, I suppose, addressing the stormwater part of it too, and not letting it go into our wastewater network. And we've also, as you be aware, we have been working through our consent as well for our comprehensive wastewater take consent from a district perspective, and to make sure that we are upgrading our plants to the right requirements and environmental standards that going forward. And we are working on the Matamata plant that started at the moment, so the contractor's out there and progressing with that work. The next one's stormwater, so that's around reducing the risk of our communities. And we are completing quite a bit of some significant work at the moment. We are doing a modelling of our urban stormwater network. So we're working with the regional council and taking some of the modelling work that they've done around some of the rivers and that we're focusing on our urban network. So yeah, it is work in progress, and we're still refining and working on that model to understand. First of all, we want to understand the risks to our communities, and also that will lead into some potentially building some resilience, may result in upgrading some of our systems. But I think it's going to be, we know that with the climate change factors and that, and doing the modelling, it's very hard to upgrade your network. And a lot of the pipes and things that went in 50 years ago were put in are quite different standards. I think and some of our stuff is the 1 in 10 year event, which is really just taking quite limited water when you think about it now. We've seen some 1 in 50 year, even and the design standards now are 1 in 100 year, including climate change. So our networks are just not set up to take that. So just trying to understand what we've got, and then also the next part will be talking to our communities about that, building some resilience. And the other part is also we've increased our maintenance program and water quality monitoring program. We've currently got a consent sitting with the regional council around our comprehensive discharge consent for our stormwater in our 4 towns. So, yeah, and we've got some money in our long-term plan to look at addressing and making some changes to our discharge quality. We don't exactly know what exactly that will look like, but that is something planting or providing some other treatment in some of our busiest road and near our streams. So that's something that we're doing. Yeah. And the last one was rubbish, solid waste. The focus of rubbish is on both waste minimisation and waste separation. So including keeping food waste out of landfill is one of the key ones. We're trying to track what the government's doing next. There are changes coming along quite regularly and going into different directions. So we're just trying to stay on top of that. And some of those related to the emission from organics and construction and demolition waste. So that within that, we feel that's kind of the next part, that demolition and part. So we're investigating the best options to reduce more items going to our landfill, providing that separation. For example, we're taking out e-waste, batteries, and de-gassing refrigeration. So that's something that's happened as of late. And we're also working internally to look at our organisational sustainability, and aren't we? So doing what we can as a council, corporate level.
Kia ora, thank you. Excellent presentation. And just in terms of the wastewater, and it kind of lines up, but is there a data set around how many breaches and the outcomes of those breaches? Wastewater?
Yeah, that would be official information, I'm pretty sure. I don't think that was here was set last time.
Yeah, because I mean, last year there was a number of breaches, and we worked on around managing that impact, certainly from a relationship with regional council, some of that compliance work.
We'll come to that and provide some information.
Yeah, it's something that Manawhenua and I had a conversation around to understand. Obviously, the best part is we've decommissioned Waiho, so that's one that's always not had a significant effect on the environment, but still wasn't necessarily compliant. Decommissioning that's certainly been a step forward. Matamata's wastewater plant obviously is being built now as we speak. There's work going on there, so that will also improve outcomes. So yeah, I think we're
on this next on the list after that, so we are progressively working through.
Yeah, I think it really matters for nothing like that. And so having visited the site a couple of weeks ago, was great to see the improvements in the investment there, notwithstanding the risks within Matamata. and work there to communicate any issues with the team. So I just want to acknowledge that. My second question around water quality monitoring in the stormwater network. Is there a investment around cultural health indicators and or cultural monitoring to monitor the monitor when it comes to water? And so there's 5 key things around iwi concerns with regards to stormwater. It's attenuation, quality, quantity, the first splash, and erosion. Obviously within key facets of areas, and obviously the water receiving was because I wrote the report. And so just reaffirming how is that captured in terms of the cultural monitoring component.
And I think, sorry, well, we've actually probably got more about this than me because you were quite involved in our documentation that we submitted for our discharge consent. So at the moment, we've put that information through to the regional council and we are waiting for them to process. And then we're going to be looking at what those specific conditions are and what we do have to monitor. So, yeah, we're not quite certain yet what they want to play.
How we can.
Yeah.
That's what came through iwi engagement, monitoring the monitor around all the waters, but the cultural monitoring or cultural health indicators, modiometers, you call them whatever you like, but the principle is how do you manage and monitor the modi. What? What's complementary to the other thing? Okay, from Joe, that cultural monitoring, but agent.
You happy to move?
Yeah, I was gonna. Can I just? Sorry, this is way out of the box. The Paris Agreement on climate change. Even though there's some leaders overseas, I won't name America or Trump, but those individuals who are withdrawing from this big coat over that we're all part of the planet, and there are what impacts on humankind on all of the planet. It's good to see that we're wanting to our agreements to do what we can to put it. Well, statement anything else. Happy to move, like.
Thank you. Second up.
Good presentation, thank you.
Bureau, Leo, all those in favour say aye. Contrary, carried. Thank you. Tomorrow, this next.
Read Carolyn and Jaysharu.
Yeah. Report will be sent out later. My understanding.
Yes, so they'll present to it and a summary will come out with the minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Good everyone. Just wondering, would you like me to provide a short summary of the report or can take as read and happy to answer questions?
Take it as read.
Take it as read. Are there any questions regarding the report?
No comment.
It's a time.
Yeah.
I'll refrain from that. I have to do
Yes, take it as read. You've been 6 months. All those in favour say aye. Contrary, carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
5.3.
Do you want to go round so then they can all see you? Seem to know what I want to see you. That might be easier. Because on the corner there, it's very hard to, we're looking through screens and that.
wait.
Yeah, looking this way.
We're on to the multi-language policy implementation.
Yeah.
Kia ora tātou, tēnā rau te pane. I will keep this short and sweet. I'm here to give a little quick summary of the Māori policy that has been adopted in 2019, a couple of years now, and what we achieved in that time. Bilingual titles has been a focus, our signage and so on. We are still in the process of meeting some of those goals and aspirations that was highlighted in those policies, and we are working operationally speaking and ticking off the task. I think we've come a long way in a short amount of time, and we've still got a lot to ahead of us. So I would take my report as read, but if the form has any part or any questions.
Just quick one. Me mei ka tika kia uru ki ngā awatanga Māori roto i tēnei mga mahi. So I just want to acknowledge your leadership tūtai in regards to reaffirming the role of bilingualism within this kaupapa. So tēnā koe, acknowledging and the people of the council for that as well. Can I just share a good example? Having recently attended a pūhuri by our leader, it was good that those kai kōrero translated what they said, and we're all moving together as one. And as one of the Manawhenua speakers, it was prudent of us to translate our mihi so that we're all on the same waka in terms of understanding. It's unusual and it's not normal, but tikanga does sway and adapt to ensure that everyone's participating and engaged in comms in that space. So I just wanted to say that because it aligns to this kaupapa in regard to the reo, and going forward, certainly from a Ngāti Tumu point of view, if there is kaupapa within Te Aroha, often among myself, I will be looking to do my mihi i roto i te reo Māori, but also translate it so that our non-Māori speakers can participate in that understanding.
Good, thank you for raising that. And Norm, particularly with the pōwhiri, I was approached with a bit of concern about that, as it was tikanga. And I hear your point about we are learning, taking particularly the council down that road to understand what tikanga is about. But when it is tikanga, it's tikanga. You can't change it. And the point that was raised to me, particularly the first speaker, which was Ngāti Hoa, if that person was mehe tawa kanata, he kaumātua. Ko oi mātua hei haere ki aia, tohu ki aia, me pake tana reo, e roto te reo Pākehā. This is what the speaker approached me and said that why he obliged at that time. It's so unusual, and I'm pleased to hear you say that. It's so unusual to do that, particularly the first speaker. And as I said, while he obliged, it's something we don't do. It is something particular that Ngāti Hoa doesn't do. It's okay if someone else is there and translate for that speaker. That's okay. But to ask and I'm speaking for Ngāti Hoa, this is not what we do. And that I'm pleased that the speaker he rangatei hoki, he hara te kaumātua. So that while he approached me and said, well, when he was approached, he said, okay, and that happened. But I don't think we should make that happen. I wouldn't like to see that happen, particularly for us. Kia ora. Thank you. Are there any other questions today?
I know that policy is about reo, but I just wanted to acknowledge the team because it felt much more Māori at the pōwhiri the other day. And even though it is a reo policy, as soon as you start inviting all the reo in and engaging, the whole feeling changes and the vibe changes. So I think from a number of us that attended the other day, thank you. Ngā mihi to all of you guys for making that feel much more welcoming and warm and more Māori. So an awesome kapaka group. That kind of stuff. It will all start to highlight the beauty of te reo and how that can kind of merge its way into all of our mahi. So ngā mihi.
And Norm?
Just one last thing. Me mihi ka tika ki te tikanga, kia tikanga haere te tika ni e pana ki te reo. And so acknowledging it was the extraordinary situation where the language was translated, and that's the value of partnership. And certainly tikanga e te aokoa and hui with others like Fonterra and visitors from Canada. The speaker on our boat has taken a tikanga approach to translate the language on our marae to get that connection to 100 plus Canadians who are here for that beautiful program. And so just wanted to acknowledge and tautoko you whai. Thank you. E whai ki te tikanga.
If there's no other questions, I will move this report to be received. I have a seconder, please. Thank you, Jill. All those in favour say aye. Contrary carried. Thank you. Well, I understand, and the 5.5 is taken as read.
Yeah, I did want to just highlight that the team are getting an engagement plan underway, and we've been notified by the local commission.
Let's just jump to 5.5. 5.5, not 5.4.
5.5.
Yeah, just thought who day sitting there.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
and then we'll jump back to 5.4.
Yeah, my apologies.
Sorry.
Yes, I will wait. Speaking to 5.5 in regards to the 1990 membership report, acknowledgements were made to Matamata Reese, who's been on the forum, is now maybe returning as they kind of looking at direction.
Yes.
And we have Hinarangi Vamso here as a primary representative of the Matamata-Piako organisation. I will take my report as read, but if there's any part-time.
Yep. I have a mover, please. No, second. Michael, all those in favour say aye. Contrary carried. Thank you. Now, Kui nai tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay, so just on the local elections project update, not a lot has happened since we met last year, but we have been working on an engagement plan, and we've spoken with the local electoral commission, who has advised us that there are 5 groups that particularly don't engage with elections, and Māori are one of those groups. I just wanted to ask whether there may be any engagements that staff could come and speak to iwi organisations or groups, and we could facilitate a conversation on the 3 phases that we have in elections, and that's enrolments, standing for elections, and also voting.
Lord.
What's the current mechanisms to entice all voters, not just Māori, but all voters?
Well, I can only speak on what we did last election. We had staff going out and engaging with as many people as possible, and just letting them know that the local government is for everybody in the district, not just for ratepayers, and really touching on if you want somebody representative of yourself, then you might consider standing for elections or even nominating somebody for elections. Yeah, we try to do as much comms as possible and going out doing the face-to-face engagements. We were quite successful, I think, with getting a lot of people standing for elections, but the voting outcome, I can't remember what the numbers were off the top of my head, but it was
30.
Yeah, it wasn't high.
Average about 40 across New Zealand.
Yeah.
It's a postal ballot more than communications, I think. Yeah, just seems to.
One of the things that we are considering for this election, for voting particularly, is to do a mobile voting booth. So just to make it more accessible for our elderly or disabled, and just people who might not have any way of transport.
In the age of technology, is the conversations around online voting? Yep.
Can I?
Yeah, sure.
I might be best to lead this one, just to talk about it. So Nick Smith, Mayor of Nelson, past MP, there is a subcommittee of mayors who I'm not, Susan O'Regan actually is on that committee, and they were talking about voting and how postal voting isn't working, but online isn't secure. We looked at online a number of years ago. We were a council that were quite keen on it, and it's just not secure enough.
Even with technology?
Even with technology, no, there's been, I've listened in on webinars about it, and yeah, no, it's not there yet. Then they talked about voting in person, but because people get mixed up with general election and our local body elections, so real challenge for us. But I think we've just got to keep reminding people not to throw when they get their form in the mail, don't throw it away. It's your democratic right to vote, but we need people to stand. That's the other thing, is we also want people to exercise their.
My response to that is postal ballots, not. I can say, oh, sure, give us your postal ballot, and there, Jill, and I'll go, I'll put that for you, bro.
Yeah.
And that's
the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it's getting people to vote. And I guess that's for all of us as individuals. It's a lot of it sits on council, but even for Manawhenua to exercise their democratic right as well, given with what we've got ahead of us, it's an interesting space. But that's basically in a nutshell. There has been work done on trying to find a better way to get more people voting, at least, because it's 80% is the government votes. And ours is
40%.
Is it as high as?
Yeah, that's what Susan Prima Green and Sam Broughton were up at Waitangi, and that's what they were up there for, around encouraging localism and voting and that. So, yeah.
Tamara, it seems a very short period in terms of the nominations that people put forward from 7th of July to the 1st of August.
It was tightened. It's been tightened.
Has it always been that tight?
Because that's been tightened because of the postal vote, because they've added another week in the voting process.
We now have 5 weeks for voting.
So they're taking a week away from the nomination, because it just seems a bit tighter than what it was.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay.
Because with the postage the way it is, it's taking it over a week for a letter to go from Walton to.
Brilliant. Again, another cross in the box.
Yeah. It's just, that's the way of the world, because it's not as much mail.
So MPDC is still retaining the Māori board?
Yeah,
yes, for 2025, but because of the legislative changes, that has triggered a referendum. So we'll have the voting papers and the referendum, I think, at this stage on the same voting paper. And the question that's been posed to DIA is whether it's, because in my report it was I've just got the legislative requirement, but they're trying to change it. Do you vote to keep the multi-ward or remove the multi-ward? Just to simplify it so people actually understand what they're being asked.
So the Māori board's going to be here next election, but the referendum for the
2028.
2028. So
referendum. Wait for this place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any questions? Enough? I will move before this report, please. Michael? Jill? Those in favour, say aye. Country, carried. Thank you. The last item, well, no, not the last item, the first part is the forum. We're just going to go around to see if there's any questions from our iwi.
Just an update. Anything of interest? Around the table?
I think the only interest really is the Matatini, which is next week. So on the table, a lot of the people, our iwi, this coming few weeks. But I'll leave it open if anybody can go around. Joe?
Nothing.
Michael?
Well, just that we had a iwi chairs forum at our last one, and that was held up there. But also just I'd like to acknowledge, I've forgotten the beginning part, but Paria, Mati, Tōna, Eracho, Panipo, Te Reo, Iri Tawhiwhirangi. And I quite enjoyed her, when she was 86 and being interviewed by Willie Jackson, and JT said, "Hi, you're going to be hopping down, you're 86 from Manawhenua." I think she told him to go and get jumped on the pair of him and JT, but she was a queer that worked right up till 95. And many of our queer in our language, seeing this one here today being pushed at this table, that those are exemplars of the work that she, and of course, I think they got it in 2000s, 3000. There is a drop down of 400, but a lot of our partners have gone into Punga and all these other type centres, and we start. I think if you really measure across the language of the kaupapa, it's there. And I understand it's probably sitting somewhere about $1 billion per annum in the te reo, and that will increase and grow as we go forward. So, again, spectacular when you think back on the kaumātua kuia and kaupapa that worked on and worked for free with the kaupapa, started with kore, and then where they've got to today when we look at the movements and our leadership that's coming through. Also attended the Toitū March down there, huge, exciting, and you can see the rangatahi are coming through. So with the polling that's coming on, I've got rangatahi telling me which party to vote for. So that's exciting when you get feedback from your own children and telling you, Papa, he ai pēnei ai, te tiro ki te Pāti Māori me ki pēnei kia, he te rangatahi ke o te kōtirora, tā keo wehene. Engari, koina tā mātau I tēnei watone. Hari ko tā ki titiro mo ngā ekenga ki te haramai at the Iwi Chairs Forum, of course. There's a lot of opportunities for housing needs and people like that. I think that's just been reconfigured, and the best one to look at is ki tāpi titiro is waikato taini hari kia taunu flavor I reira te whakarite no mātātou ki te whai te tauiro whenā me plata roti te utu whānui. Ko mai kua ti reina ngā neke hanga o te kati o te Māori Health Authority as a kawana. I do believe that it probably should never have been a Māori authority within a Crown anyway, and they should never have been able to shut it down. So it's something for us as we move forward. It's teitanga a iwi nei a motu, that if we're going to establish a authority, that tū motu haki wa tātou. O ha pai te ki raro tonu I te krauna, I tēnā tuahutan. Me ngā tukinga Pākehā, hia nei ki te takamaiwa rātou, tautoko a putea a whakao, tēnā tuku o mai. Ki te kore, well, me nuku ki rā haki, kau e tū mai ki mui a tātou, I te mutunga o tātou, I roti o tātou ringarika. And I think that's the changing landscape that's in front of us, as we're seeing if there needs to be educational authorities for Māori and the likes of us will move forward. O haipai au tātou ki te ki raro i te anga, just look at that word that was in there before, mātaitanga, monitoring our progress should be monitored by ourselves. Whenā wa tātou e whiki nei, kia pua wai te wa tātou kau. Koe anō, koe ngā te tēne mana. Hei a koe hene rang.
Nothing really.
I've got a list of about 50 projects.
Leo.
Yep.
I'd just like to mention here that Adrian and Manoia attended Pokai. Pokai is some of you may not be aware of what a Pokai is. A Pokai is for the political film. And they have 28 official Pokai in a year and 3 unofficial ones. And the first Pokai is at the beginning of the year, the first day of the year of January. So that's when the first, and then there are all scheduled dates that some dates are there for remembering Kaupapa. So I just wanted to mention last year we took Adrian to her first Pokai, which was at Hukanui Marae. And we go to Hukanui Marae because that is our marae of what Ngāti Hoa. We support that marae with their Pokai. Adrian was went last year. This year, Adrian and our new Tumapuka was welcomed there with all other, I believe, other councils were there too, as well as a big crowd on Saturday just gone. So that's just your introduction to Pokai, and it goes all through the year up until December when it says the last Pokai of the year, which is way up. That's way up, Pokai, way up that way. We're on Pokai. So, and I hope that you were able to see our queen. You know, she's been up and down the country representing, you know, but these tangihangas that Michael has mentioned. She was attended everything that was going on, as well as the hikoi, as well as Waitangi. And then when she went from Waitangi down to the Ngāti Pro, and while she's gone, she left our tūmaki up at Waitangi to represent her there. So all that's where Ngāti Hoa is expected to go to support all those kaupapa. You know, those kaupapa, there's many other kaupapa that is for us that is happening closer to home. So you know, we are busy people, very busy people, and that so much has changed over the years, and that a lot of goes to the iwi to attend. For myself, in our own local community, in our own hapori in Morrinsville, we, you know, a lot of schools have now opted to have pōwhiri, and what they say, we do make it, you know, but they, you know, the schools are really wanting to learn these things and to teach it to the children. So that has been happening, and also to our museum. The museum, Morrinsville Museum, is undertaking a big kaupapa. They want to tell the story, our story, and what you know, they can, as people can learn from our children, from their stories that they are Morrinsville community. And that's working together. That's the community working with our iwi. So there's a lot happening, and there's a lot of support that we've got to help our people out there. So that's, and now I just want to mention there are Tumaki from the Tamihana. He's also a very busy man, not only supporting Manawhenua Te Pō, but also other iwi. He's been in Daman, Chitin, a whole lot of other kaupapa, not just Ngāti Hoa, kaupapa, but the other kaupapa that people have requested of it. I want to thank you, Norm. Here, you're talking about mentioning Ngāti Hoa. I know you represent Ngāti Hoa and a lot of kaupapa that our iwi trust has engaged you to do. So I'm pleased to hear especially the water, the environment, all those kaupapa. You have represented us really well in that area. So Manawhenua, te Matamata-Piako.
I just wanted to add, it was lovely to go to the Pokai again. It was a hot day, and it was lovely because I had tuatahi next to me, giving me a bit of a translation along the way. I'm sort of picking up the feel of a few words, so I did sort of, and I had Tilly next to me from Waikato District as well. I know Tilly, so it was quite nice. Yeah, so we talked, we were talking about all sorts of things because obviously with the Waikato boundary and with the Ngāti Hoa school, we were talking about that. So, like these connections, there's always a connection. But I really want to reflect on the Pōwhiri and thank you very much for helping us make the day quite special. As Manai said, he didn't want this, but I think we did it. I think we did it quite well, and I really appreciate and acknowledge the translation because for a lot of the council staff that never go to a Pōwhiri, they really appreciated the opportunity because we did close the offices and give them the opportunity because a lot of them worked on a Manaia for many years as well. So I felt it was a really inclusive. I think the word here was really that inclusive relationship that they all appreciated so much to be a part of. So thank you so much for that. And and I look forward to obviously other things going forward with our iwi and that. Actually, Ngāti Hinorangi, you've got a school camp happening somewhere up in your area soon. Is there one? No, not in your. Oh, the college and the leadership camp.
Oh.
Yeah, out at Tangata. Yeah, I hear Manawhenua was going somewhere.
Oh yeah, they're doing it, but yeah.
Yes, and going to be lifting the hangi and things like that, I believe. So like there's things happening in our community that I think is nice to share from a community of what's happening. I think it's just that opportunity. So thank you very much.
I just have one last one. I just want to acknowledge my role with Ngāti Hoa. I've been there for nearly 9 years now as their pōtaiao, working on a myriad of projects that Three Waters and all inclusive work associated with the taiao. I hail from Waikato Tony through my journey. Actually, Whaia was on the Grand Marua in the Tony Māori Transport days as my post. So acknowledging that we're going through a change now, and I just wanted to acknowledge the Pōwhiri. And I think it was a fantastic celebration of unity for our leader, and similar to the Pēnārangi. The vibe was actually just beautiful, and in my main I acknowledged the Waiata group. Matatini is coming up. So if you keep going, you might be Matatini in 3 years' time. So kia kaha there. One of the key things that many of you may or may not know is that all of the iwi actually integrate and work together. I mean, right now, there's the biggest solar farm in New Zealand, apparently, being established at Te Aroha West. Ngāti Hoa and Ngāti Tumitumi are working collaboratively on that one. Ngāti Hoa and Ngāti Hinorangi and Hokawa are working on all things associated with Matamata and all that. The point is, my day is actually universal for all of us, and the better and greater we can work together in terms of sharing our resources is a betterment for the outcome of our people. But can I just plant this seed of thinking, and I just want to acknowledge our CEO that's here. With regards to change in political landscape, I believe there's an opportunity should the democratic process, unelected or de-elect, will resolve to not support the Māori board process going forward on 2028. There's another model that's also something that's a hybrid arrangement. There's actually the Manawhenua model, which Hamilton City Council adopted many years ago, and I'm an example of that where the Māori board wasn't supported, but there's a middle ground around the Manawhenua being involved in some of the committees that have influence within the council. So I just wanted to plant that whakao and seed around representation should the democratic process remove the representation that we so love. And again, we put our own ground in that statement that we support the Māori boards and on the council there. Great, hui. I'm going to shut up now because I'm taking too much of our eating time, and I think tuatahi was another maranga coming up. Thank you, Pai.
Just to, I love this solar power paper that's coming around. But there was a time when I think it was Matamata-Piako was challenged. He goes, next you'll be claiming the sunlight from the sun. And of course he said, well, where there's rights, those were the rights that we talked about. And it's unusual that, you know, solar power is now rights. And Boiano, he kōrero tana tēnei matata, hei whiniwhini. Like these international companies that are coming into our sunlight and taking opportunities around this need to be also challenged around that taonga o tātou ia humaria Manawhenua. And I understand that one of the iwis have purchased into this particular solar power, and Taranaki is also on the speaks with them. So look forward to catching up with them around this particular one. Well, nothing.
What do you find, Ali?
It's up to you now. Just waiting. I'm going to move that.
Move you.
You're going to move that the forum's reports be received.
Oh, no, we might lay a mortini.
Second day. Yeah. What does everybody say? Aye. Aye. Concrete hearing. We're just waiting for. Just after this last matter, which is the legal item, we're just going to take 5 minutes before you go into 5 minutes break before you go into the workshop, and then I'll be able to take my leave. My daughter come up and myself to leave. How far is she?
She's just gone into.
Sorry, keep me waiting.
Marsha come back. Does she know that we need Marsha back? Or you were standing there anyway?
Oh, Marsha's bringing back the.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I do apologise for that. So let's read this letter. Tēnā koe te Manawhenua Adrian, kia koe hoki. Te koromata tuarua James. Te rangatira Gary. Te tumu whakarai manaia. Koutou opu hoa. Ngā māngai o tēnā rohe. A tēnā iwi, tēnā koutou katoa. Due to illness, I wish to tender my resignation as Chair of Te Manawhenua, taking effect as of today, the 11th of February 2025. I take this opportunity to thank the support staff for their unwavering support over the years. It has been my honour to serve in this role. The last few years since the passing of Butch Tuakaraina, and previous to Butch, he has been the chair and took over from the co-managers of that era. I was just talking, Adrian just asked me a question. Have I seen changes of the year? I certainly have, and I think of those old people that have passed on. But that's, my resignation is of chair at this time. You will be informed from my trust of who my replacement will be on the Manawhenua board. No later, koutou, Mike, koe I konei I ngā wā, ko koe te kauiahu ki e kano I tawhito, engari ko koe I tēnei I taua wā. Kia koutou, Jill, tēnā rangi, Leo, James, Norm, kia koe hoki te Manawhenua. Tēnā koutou katoa, tēnā koutou mō koutou manaki. Kia koe hoki Jill, o koutou manaki hoki I te wā I nohoi I tēnei tūranga. E hara tēnei tūranga he tūranga māma, engari kia koutou he manaki. I te tangata ka noho I konei I ngā wā ki te hanga mai. Nō reira, huri no tēnā tātou katoa. And please excuse me if I have to leave. This half a day is probably just about my limit. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora.
I'm with that, and it's been quite rushed, but I was super organised. We need to formally acknowledge Te Marama, and I know you will all have memories of the many years that we service and commitment to the Manawhenua of Arohi and to council in particular. So I hope I'm not dropping in process. I don't know. This is your forum. If you'd like to stop me now and say something and leave me till last, or if you're happy for me to continue, I'm obviously in your hands as to what you prefer as your process with this. So I'm sorry if I'm jumping in. Am I okay? Karen, thank you. Yeah, like I didn't have a chance to talk about it, obviously, because this has happened quite quickly. So as many of you know, Te Marama has been on the forum since 2004 as the Ngāti Noa representative and became the chair in 2013. And there has been change for the better. I think we are building a much stronger relationship as we move forward in this journey. And along those forms of partnership that we create along the way, and that trust, I think we need to build trust as well, and transparency. So with that, it's my absolute pleasure to present all of these flowers, and they really do match your colourings today. It's a lovely bouquet, and a wee gift from us. I heard that Images in Morrinsville is a place that she likes to go, so I'm a little voucher as our gratitude to Te Marama, and thank you so much for your service. Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I've really appreciated. Obviously, she's worked under many years through this time, and I've had the pleasure of being with her beside her for the last couple of Yeah, thank you, and on behalf of us all, and I'm sorry I didn't get to pass around because I didn't have time, so I've just signed it off on behalf of them. And thank you. So I don't know what your process is next. Please refer to perhaps one of our male members to reply. Thank you. I do. Thank you.
Tēnei tua tēnei. Angapu ki haura ka tare ule biana ki te whenua tangi ana ki te tanaka. Aku moe hau ke roa o te aroha kairo. O te aroha kairo tia mata ki te rongāti o nei kōrero hei hiki mai tō tūranga kai ara hi nei. Mai te wā I whakaki I tērā wā tātou pāpa Butch nā I arataki nei tau tāna ko koe rā hoki I whai muri atu. Te tae te whakaki o hu, e rangi, ahako te aha. Koe rā hoki te tai o tātou I arataki nei te tira, e pāniki ngā kaupapa e kore ake nei te tepu nei ko te tikapa. E kore ake nei ko te kaua o tainuri. Tēnei wā tātou e kore ake nei, e nei o ngā me I naura I arataki tātou I raro I tēnā wā tātou a Ngāti Haua, a te tumoa ki anō hoki, piri atu anō hoki ki tō tātou ingitanga, wā ia tātou whai, wā tuhei te wā anō hoki o tēnei e kawe nei whakarapaka nei. O tō tātou waka o tainui tēnei ngā maramara e tuake nei, ki te mihi atu kia koe, heke mai koe, I pōhehe au I te wā o te rohe mo te urunga o tēnā tīma, ko koutou ngā kuia I raro I te tohutohu o tēnei, kei runga te atamira o tēnā ki Waikato. Tatarawa tō māka e whiwhi ai koutou he turanga ki tarana ki mo tēnā. O reira, haere I runga I te pai, haere I runga I tō whanaunga tō kōtiro nei, hei awhi a koe, ko kānui te aroha ki te ronga atu ko pāto te hekinga o tō tīnana engari, kia piki te ora, kia piki te kaha, koi tonu te henengaro, koi tonu te whakaro o tātou I waihotia nei mā mātou a te apopotanga. Nō reira, haere I runga I tēnā, kānui wei nei māku po tēnei wā, ngā puti I tākoha nei tēnei wā tātou tira, tēnei wā tonu. Tēnā koe, tēnā kote, tēnā tātou. He puti pae, kato hea, hei pito te tau, he tau aroha koe ko rongo koe kuona. Oi te o. Aue, tēnā matata. Oi anō, I was going to start off with that other one, puti kani hanga e ngari po. Peke kia. Taira ko mi au ki tēnā tā. Ngā rui tēnā.
Lori. Declare the meeting closed.
So we need to move.
We
have a mover, please. Second husband.
James.
Will you close the meeting?
Ai, nui te katsinga o tō tātou. Oi, tēnei, māku hei, whenua atu. Ko tai te wā ki te whakari ngā ki te kore o tēnei watu. Pau hiri, pau rarama, pau te whakaro, pau te aroha. I hera ai tātou ngā waka tō a haumi e hui e.
Tau hie.